The Krythax hegemony had conquered 17 star systems in the past 3 centuries, their obsidian fleets cutting through space like death itself. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor gazed at the tactical hologram floating before his command throne, watching the pale blue dot that represented their next target, Earth. "Such a primitive world," hissed his tactical advisor, Quinn Daleth, her serpentine form coiled around the sensor console. "Their most advanced vessels barely reach their own moon. This will be our easiest conquest yet." The humans had been broadcasting their crude electromagnetic signals into space for barely 2 centuries, a blink of an eye to the ancient Krythax. Their telescopes had detected vast cities sprawling across the planet's surface, billions of potential slaves and resources ripe for harvesting. Intelligence reports showed primitive chemical rockets, nuclear weapons that would barely scratch Krythax armor plating, and no unified planetary defense system. Vex Thanor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Deploy the Third Armada. Standard conquest protocol, orbital bombardment of major population centers, followed by ground forces to secure the survivors. The humans will serve well in the deuterium mines of Kepler 442b. The Krythax war fleet consisted of 300 vessels, each one a kilometer-long nightmare of angular black metal and plasma weaponry. They had crushed civilizations far more advanced than Earth's inhabitants. The primitive humans, still confined to their single world with only a handful of satellites and space stations, would fall within hours. As the fleet engaged their quantum-fold drives, preparing for the 6-month journey to the Sol system, Vex Thanor allowed himself a moment of anticipation. The humans' fate was sealed the moment they first transmitted radio waves into the void, announcing their presence to any species capable of listening. What the Krythax didn't know was that humanity had been listening too. Deep beneath the Sahara Desert, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Director Kamal Thornwick studied the same tactical displays that had sealed the Krythax's decision to attack Earth. The Kepler Space Telescope had detected their fleet movements 3 years ago. The Very Large Array had been tracking their communications for 18 months, and Project Looking Glass, humanity's most classified program, had been preparing for this moment since the first alien transmission was intercepted in 2157. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Commander Iris Valkenhall from her station, "Aegis Network confirms all 73 defense platforms are online and awaiting your orders." Thornwick nodded grimly. The aliens thought they were hunting defenseless prey. They would soon discover that humanity's greatest strength had always been its capacity for paranoid preparation and overwhelming retaliation, the same species that had turned the atom into a weapon, that had militarized every technology they'd ever developed, and that had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare, was not going to roll over for alien invaders. Alert, all allied nations. Operation Spartas. "Shield is now active," Thornwick commanded. "Let's show these bastards what happens when you threaten Earth." The Krythax fleet folded space, believing they were traveling toward easy conquest. Instead, they were flying directly into humanity's carefully laid trap, one that would end their threat long before they could even glimpse the red sands of Mars. 6 months of travel through the quantum fold had brought the Krythax armada to the edge of the Sol system. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor emerged from his hibernation pod, his 4 eyes adjusting to the command bridge's crimson lighting. The tactical display showed their fleet in perfect formation, approaching the asteroid belt with mechanical precision. "Status." "Report!" he commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge's crystalline walls. "All vessels report operational readiness," replied Navigator Zeth Morrow, her pale blue skin glistening with the neural interface gel that connected her directly to the ship's sensors. "We've detected the target system's 4th planet, Mars, and the 3rd planet appears to be curious." Vex Thanor's attention sharpened. "Explain." "The electromagnetic signatures from Earth have increased exponentially since we began our journey," They appear to have launched several hundred objects into orbit around their world and established what looks like a permanent settlement on their moon. The fleet commander's mandibles clicked dismissively. Rapid expansion in their final months. Likely panic-driven colonization attempts once they detected our approach. It matters little. We'll simply have more targets to eliminate. What the Krythax couldn't detect were the quantum-encrypted communications flowing between Earth's orbital defense platforms and the lunar installation. Humanity's early warning systems had tracked the alien fleet from the moment they entered. The outer solar system, their exotic energy signatures impossible to miss once you knew what to look for. On Luna Base Meridian, General Yuki Nagashiro stood in the operations center, watching as data streams flowed across holographic displays. The artificial gravity felt lighter than Earth's, but the weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders with crushing force. Every simulation had run through her mind 1,000 times. Every contingency had been planned and replanned. "General," called Major Peter Volkov from the communications array, "we're receiving final confirmation from all Hammer stations. The kinetic bombardment platforms are locked onto the alien fleet's projected route." Nagashiro nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. "And the Mars installations?" "Commander Rafe Ashworth reports Fort Olympus is fully operational. All Quantum Lance batteries are charged and ready." Volkov paused, consulting another display. "The mining operation facade is holding perfectly. The aliens still believe Mars is uninhabited." The irony wasn't lost on any of them. While the Krythax had spent 6 months traveling to what they thought was an easy conquest, humanity had spent those same 6 months constructing the most advanced military installations in human history. The mining equipment on Mars were actually fortress-scale particle beam weapons. The research stations in the asteroid belt were automated defense platforms armed with nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers. Humanity had taken every piece of technology they'd developed, from fusion reactors to quantum computers to antimatter containment, and weaponized it with the ruthless efficiency that had characterized their species since they first picked up rocks and decided to throw them at their enemies. "Estimated time until contact?" Nagashiro asked. 18 hours until they reached the Mars perimeter," Volkov replied. "The alien fleet is maintaining standard formation. They suspect nothing." Nagashiro allowed herself a thin smile. The Krythax had made the same mistake that every bully throughout history had made. They'd assumed that technological superiority meant military superiority, and that their enemies would fight according to their expectations. They were about to learn why humanity had never been conquered, and why picking a fight with a paranoid, innovative, and absolutely ruthless species was the last mistake they would ever make. The Krythax Third Armada swept through the void between Jupiter and Mars with predatory confidence. Vex Thanor studied the red planet through the forward viewing portal, its rusty surface appearing barren and lifeless. Orbital scans confirmed what their intelligence had predicted. No major settlements, no defense networks, just the scattered debris of primitive human exploration attempts. "Maintaining course for Earth," announced Zethmaro. "Mars appears to be uninhabited save for some automated mining equipment. Shall we ignore it and proceed directly to the primary target?" "No," Vexithanor decided. "Deploy a reconnaissance squadron to investigate those installations. If the humans have established any foothold on Mars, we'll eliminate it before proceeding to Earth. I want no surprises behind our lines." Tactical Officer Quinn Daleth's serpentine head swayed as she analyzed the sensor data. "Commander, I'm detecting 17 separate installations across the planet's surface. They appear to be mining operations, possibly for rare Earth elements. Minimal energy signatures, no weapons detected." "Take us into Mars orbit," Vex Thanor commanded. "Have Squadron Vorth conduct surface reconnaissance. Once we've cleared Mars, we'll proceed to Earth and finish this primitive species." Deep within, Fort Olympus, buried beneath Olympus Mons itself, Commander Rafe Ashworth watched the alien fleet's approach on tactical displays that put their finest science fiction to shame. The massive underground complex hummed with barely contained energy, as fusion reactors powered up the quantum lance batteries that had been disguised as mining equipment for the past 8 months. "All stations, this is Olympus Control," Ashworth spoke into his communication array. "Targets are within optimal range. Commence Operation Red Dawn on my mark." Across Mars, 17 facilities that the Krythax had dismissed as mining equipment began to transform. Camouflaged panels slid away to reveal particle accelerator barrels the size of subway tunnels. Quantum field generators that had been disguised as ore processors hummed to life. The entire surface of Mars became a weapons platform, bristling with humanity's most advanced military technology. The Krythax Reconnaissance Squadron, 12 sleek vessels each carrying enough firepower to level a human city, descended through Mars's thin atmosphere, preparing to investigate the strange installations below. They never had a chance. The first quantum lance shot erupted from what had appeared to be a simple mining facility, its coherent beam of accelerated particles crossing the distance to the lead Krythax vessel in microseconds. The alien ship's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and kinetic weapons, offered no protection against a focused stream of matter traveling at near-light speed. The vessel simply ceased to exist, its molecules scattered across the Martian sky. "Target acquired and eliminated," reported Weapons Officer Petra Voljenka from her control station. "Cycling to secondary target." Across Mars, 16 more quantum lances fired in perfect synchronization. The Krythax Reconnaissance Squadron was annihilated before they could even transmit a warning to their fleet. The entire engagement lasted less than 15 seconds. In orbit above Mars, Fleet Commander Vex Thanor stared in shocked disbelief at his tactical display. 12 vessels, gone. No distress signals, no battle reports, just empty space where his reconnaissance squadron had been moments before. "What happened?" he demanded, his 4 eyes blazing with fury and confusion. Zeth Morrow's voice trembled as she consulted her instruments. I don't know, Commander. The reconnaissance squadron simply disappeared. No weapons fire detected, no energy signatures, nothing." "Impossible!" Quindalith hissed. "This world has no defenses. Our intelligence was certain." Below them, hidden beneath the Martian surface, Commander Ashworth smiled grimly as he opened communications with Luna Base and Earth Command. "Olympus to all stations. First contact successful. Enemy reconnaissance force eliminated with 0 casualties. The bastards never saw us coming." The Krythax had made their first mistake, underestimating their enemy. It would also be their last, the Phi. Destruction of the reconnaissance squadron sent ripples of confusion through the Krythax command structure. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor stood before the tactical hologram, his 4 eyes fixed on the empty space where 12 of his vessels had vanished without a trace. "Run full spectrum analysis on Mars," he commanded. "I want to know what destroyed those ships." Navigator Zeth Morrow's fingers danced across her console, her neural interface probing the red planet with every sensor at their disposal. "Commander, I'm detecting massive energy residue consistent with particle beam weapons. The installations we dismissed as mining equipment appear to be something else entirely." "Weapons platforms," Tactical Officer Quindalith concluded, her serpentine form coiling tighter around her station. "The humans have militarized Mars, but how is this possible? Our intelligence showed no advanced technology capable of— It doesn't matter how," Vex Thanor snarled. "Ready the fleet for planetary bombardment. We'll glass Mars from orbit, then proceed to Earth." As the Krythax Armada prepared to unleash their firepower on Mars, they failed to notice the subtle gravitational anomalies scattered throughout the asteroid belt behind them. What appeared to be ordinary space rocks were actually something far more dangerous. Station Commander Lydia Blackthorne floated in the Zero-Gravity Command Center of Defense Platform Cerberus, one of 47 installations hidden among the asteroids. The platform's exterior was indistinguishable from the surrounding rocks, its hull covered with genuine asteroid material and equipped with thermal dampeners that masked its energy signature. "Ma'am," called weapons specialist Dmitry Kozlov from his station, "the alien fleet is positioning for Mars bombardment. All platforms report ready status." Blackthorn nodded, her gray hair floating around her weathered face. She'd been preparing for this moment for 3 years, ever since the deep space arrays had first detected the Krythax transmission. Humanity had always excelled at turning space debris into weapons, from the first satellite collision to kinetic bombardment platforms, and the asteroid belt represented the ultimate evolution of that concept. "Signal all platforms," she commanded. "Initiate swarm protocol on my mark." The Krythax Third Armada spread into bombardment formation, their weapons charging to reduce Mars to molten slag. Vex Thanor felt satisfaction course through his veins as targeting solutions locked onto the red planet's surface installations. "Fire!" he commanded. 300 vessels unleashed their fury upon Mars. Plasma beams and antimatter missiles streaked through space, carrying enough destructive force to crack a planet's crust. But instead of impacting the surface, the weapons struck a shimmering energy barrier that materialized around Mars like a soap bubble made of pure force. "Planetary shields?" Quindalith gasped. "That's impossible! The energy requirements alone would—" Her words were cut off as the asteroid belt behind them suddenly came alive. 47 objects that had appeared to be ordinary asteroids revealed their true nature. Massive fusion engines ignited, accelerating. Multi-billion-ton chunks of rock and metal toward the Krythax fleet at velocities that defied belief. Each asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a kinetic missile with the destructive potential of a small moon. "Evasive maneuvers!" Vex Thanor roared, but it was too late. The first asteroid missile struck the Krythax flagship's escort vessel, the impact releasing enough energy to briefly outshine the sun. The ship didn't just explode, it vaporized, taking 17 nearby. Vessels with it in a chain reaction of secondary explosions. "Multiple contacts, incoming from all vectors!" Zeth Morrow screamed as her sensors registered the impossible. Dozens of weaponized asteroids, each one guided by quantum targeting systems that made evasion virtually impossible. The asteroid swarm tore through the Krythax formation like bullets through paper. Ships that had conquered star systems were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. In less than 5 minutes, the Third Armada had been reduced from 300 vessels to fewer than 50. Commander Blackthorn watched the battle unfold on her tactical display, feeling a savage satisfaction as humanity's patience and ingenuity paid off in spectacular fashion. "Cerberus to Mars Command," she transmitted. "Asteroid gauntlet complete. Enemy fleet strength reduced by 85%. They're running scared." The Krythax had learned their second lesson. When you attack humanity, every piece of space debris becomes a potential weapon, and humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of turning rocks into instruments of mass destruction. The surviving Krythax vessels limped through space, their formation shattered and their confidence obliterated. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor stood among the wreckage of his command bridge, green blood seeping from cuts where crystalline control panels had exploded during the asteroid bombardment. "Status report," he demanded, his voice hoarse with rage and disbelief. Navigator Zeth Morrow, her pale blue skin now mottled with burns, consulted her damaged console with shaking hands. 47 vessels remain operational, Commander. We've lost 85% of our fleet strength. Structural damage across all remaining ships." "How?" Tactical Officer Quindalith hissed, her serpentine form partially crushed beneath fallen debris. "How did these primitives develop such weapons? Their technology was centuries behind ours." Vex Thanor's mandibles clicked as he processed the tactical nightmare they'd stumbled into. The humans weren't the defenseless prey they'd appeared to be. They were apex predators who'd been lying in wait, allowing the Crythax to walk directly into a carefully orchestrated trap. "Set course for Earth," he commanded. "We'll use what remains of our fleet to crack their planet open. If we're going to die here, we'll take their homeworld with us." The battered Crythax armada limped toward the blue-white jewel hanging in the void, unaware that they were about to face humanity's most devastating surprise yet. On Luna Base Meridian, General Yuki Nagashiro stood in the primary command center, watching as the alien fleet approached Earth. The base's true nature was finally revealed as massive sections of the lunar surface slid away, exposing weapon emplacements that dwarfed anything in human history. "All stations, this is Luna Command," she announced to the network of defenders scattered throughout the solar system. "The enemy is entering our final kill zone. Operation Moonfall is now active." What the Crythax saw as Earth's lonely satellite was actually humanity's ultimate fortress. For decades, the Luna Base had been constructed as a mining and research facility, but its true purpose was far more sinister. The entire near side of the moon had been converted into a single, massive weapons platform. "General," called Major Peter Volkov, "the mass driver array is fully charged. All 12 cannons report ready status." Nagashiro nodded grimly. The mass driver array was humanity's crown jewel. 12 electromagnetic launchers capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Each cannon could hurl a tungsten penetrator with enough kinetic energy to shatter continents. The Crythax fleet, desperate to inflict some damage before their inevitable destruction, accelerated toward Earth with weapons charging. They intended to crack the planet's crust and boil its oceans, ensuring that even if they died, humanity would die with them. They never reached their target. The first mass driver shot struck the lead Crythax vessel while it was still 300,000 kilometers from Earth. The tungsten penetrator, accelerated to 30% of light speed, didn't just destroy the ship. It erased it from existence, the impact creating a brief new star in the void. "Target eliminated," reported Weapons Officer Keiko Sato. "Cycling to next target." 11 more mass drivers fired in sequence, each shot precisely calculated to intercept the fleeing Crythax vessels. The alien ships, already damaged from the asteroid bombardment, had no chance against weapons that could punch through planets. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor watched in horror as his remaining vessels disappeared one by one, each death marked by a brilliant flash of light. His proud armada, which had conquered 17 star systems, was being systematically annihilated by a species they'd dismissed as primitive. "Signal retreat," he commanded. "All remaining vessels, withdraw immediately." But there was nowhere to run. The humans had planned for this moment, and they'd left no escape routes. As the last Crythax vessels tried desperately to flee the system, Vex Thanor finally understood the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't been hiding in fear. They'd been preparing. Every day the aliens had spent traveling to Sol. The humans had spent perfecting their defenses and planning their enemy's destruction. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity's prey had revealed itself to be the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. With only 12 vessels remaining from his once mighty armada, Fleet Commander Vex Thanor faced the bitter reality of absolute defeat. The Crythax had conquered 17 star systems through overwhelming technological superiority, but humanity had turned that very assumption into their weapon. "Commander," gasped Navigator Zeth Morrow, her neural interface sparking as she struggled. "To maintain their failing systems, the remaining vessels are requesting permission to engage quantum fold drives. We can still escape this system." Vex Thanor's 4 eyes blazed with the fury of the dying. "No. If we retreat now, word will spread throughout the galaxy that the mighty Crythax were defeated by a primitive species. Our entire civilization will be viewed as weak, vulnerable to attack by every enemy we've made." He activated the fleet-wide communications system, his voice carrying to every surviving warrior. Warriors of the hegemony, we face annihilation, but we will not flee like cowards. We have one option remaining: ram their homeworld directly. Our fusion cores will crack their planet's crust and ensure that this threat to our empire dies with us. The surviving Krythax vessels, their hulls scarred and their weapons depleted, turned toward Earth in a final suicide run. If they couldn't conquer humanity, they would at least ensure mutual destruction. But humanity had planned for this contingency as well. Director Kamal Thornwick stood in the deepest level of the Sahara facility, surrounded by displays showing the approaching alien ships. She'd spent 5 years preparing for every possible scenario, including this final desperate gambit. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Commander Iris Valkenhall, "the aliens are on a direct collision course with Earth. Even if we destroy 11 of their ships, one fusion core detonation in the atmosphere would irradiate the entire northern hemisphere." Thornwick nodded grimly. "Activate Lazarus Protocol. It's time to show them humanity's final card." High above Earth's atmosphere, what had appeared to be a communications satellite suddenly revealed its true nature. The device was actually a quantum field manipulator, technology that humanity had reverse-engineered from captured alien transmissions and improved upon with typical human ingenuity. The satellite emitted a pulse of exotic energy that warped space-time itself around the approaching Krythax vessels. Instead of flying toward Earth, the alien ships found themselves trapped in a localized space-time distortion that redirected their momentum back toward the void. "What's happening?" Vexithanor demanded as his flagship spun helplessly through twisted space. "Impossible!" Tactical Officer Quinn Daleth screamed. "They're manipulating space-time itself! How do these primitives possess such advanced technology?" The answer was simple. Humanity had been listening to alien transmissions for decades, learning from every scrap of advanced physics and exotic energy theory they could intercept. While the Krythax had grown complacent with their technological superiority, humans had been reverse-engineering their enemies' own weapons and improving upon them. The space-time distortion intensified, creating a gravitational well that pulled the Krythax vessels away from Earth and toward the outer solar system. But humanity wasn't content with merely deflecting the attack. They had one final demonstration of their capabilities to deliver. "Director," Valkenhall reported, "the quantum field is stable. The alien vessels are being redirected toward the outer system's gravity well." "Good," Thornwick replied. "Now, activate the Sol cannon." Hidden within the corona of the sun itself, protected by magnetic field generators and exotic matter shielding, lay humanity's ultimate weapon. The Sol cannon was a stellar energy harvester, capable of focusing the sun's fusion output into a coherent beam of pure destruction. The weapon fired once, drawing energy directly from the heart of Sol itself. A beam of concentrated stellar fury crossed the solar system in seconds, striking the trapped Krythax vessels and reducing them to their component atoms. Fleet Commander Vex Thanor had just enough time to realize the full scope of humanity's deception before his consciousness was scattered across the cosmos. The species he'd dismissed as primitive had not only defeated his armada, but had done so without suffering a single casualty. In the aftermath, as the last traces of the Krythax Third Armada dissipated into cosmic dust, Director Thornwick allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had faced its first test as a galactic power, and they had passed with terrifying efficiency. The hunters from beyond the stars were gone, but their legacy would live on in human memory, a reminder that the universe was full of predators, and that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their compassion or creativity, but in their absolute refusal to be anyone's prey. 3 months after the annihilation of the Krythax Third Armada, the solar system had become a very different place. What had once been humanity's secret defensive network was now openly displayed as a warning to any other species with conquest in mind. Director Kamal Thornwick stood on the observation deck of Orbital Defense Platform Prime, watching as construction. Crews put the finishing touches on Earth's permanent defense grid. The planet below was ringed with weapons platforms, while Mars had been transformed into an obvious military fortress. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a target. It was a threat. "Ma'am," called her aide, Commander Marcus Kellaway, "we're receiving another delegation request from the Altarian Trade Confederation. That makes 47 different species requesting diplomatic contact in the past month." Thornwick smiled grimly. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy's information networks about the fate of the Krithax Armada. Entire civilizations that had lived in terror of the hegemony for centuries were suddenly eager to establish friendly relations with the species that had eliminated their oppressors so decisively. "Schedule them for next week," she replied, "and make sure they understand our terms. No military vessels within 50 light-years of Sol without prior approval." The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity had spent decades searching for signs of alien life, dreaming of peaceful first contact and galactic brotherhood. Instead, their first encounter had been with genocidal conquerors, and their response had been to become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that could wage war across an entire star system with ruthless precision. On Mars, Commander Rafe Ashworth walked through the corridors of Fort Olympus, now openly acknowledged as the solar system's primary military installation. The quantum lance batteries that had been disguised as mining equipment were being expanded, while new defensive systems were under construction across the planet's surface. "Sir," called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Colonel Elena Vasquez, "we've intercepted communications from 17 different species requesting permission to establish embassies on Mars. They want to negotiate non-aggression pacts." Ashworth nodded. The galaxy's power structure had shifted overnight. The Krithax hegemony, which had terrorized entire sectors for centuries, had simply ceased to exist. Their remaining territories were being carved up by former victims, while other predatory species reconsidered their expansion plans in light of humanity's demonstrated capabilities. "Approve the embassy requests," he decided, "but make sure they understand that Mars is a military zone. Any diplomatic violations will be met with immediate expulsion from the system." In the asteroid belt, Commander Lydia Blackthorne supervised the construction of permanent defense stations among the rocky debris. The asteroid missiles that had devastated the Krithax fleet were being replaced with even more sophisticated weapons platforms. "Ma'am," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving surrender broadcasts from the remaining Krithax colonies. They're requesting humanitarian aid and protection from their former enemies." Blackthorne considered this carefully. The species that had intended to enslave humanity was now begging for human protection. The irony was almost overwhelming. "Forward those requests to Earth Command," she decided. "Let the politicians figure out how to handle refugees from a species that wanted to wipe us out." The transformation of human society had been just as dramatic as the military victory. The secret defense projects were now openly funded and expanded. Every major nation on Earth had contributed to the solar defense grid, creating the first truly unified human military command. The species that had spent millennia fighting among themselves had finally found something that united them: the absolute determination never to be vulnerable to external threats again. General Yuki Nagashiro stood on the surface of Luna Base, Meridian, looking up at the blue marble of Earth hanging in the black sky. The base's mass driver arrays were being expanded, while new weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics were under development. A communication from Earth. Command crackled through her earpiece. "General, we've received a priority transmission from the Galactic Security Council. They want to discuss humanity's potential membership in their organization." Nagashiro smiled coldly. 6 months ago, humanity had been an unknown species on an insignificant world. Now they were being invited to join the galaxy's most exclusive, Military alliance, not as junior partners, but as potential leaders. Tell them we'll consider it, she replied. But make it clear that any membership will be on our terms, not theirs. The message was spreading throughout the galaxy. A new power had emerged from the outer rim, one that didn't conquer through overwhelming numbers or superior technology, but through intelligence, preparation, and the absolute willingness to turn any object in their star system into a weapon of mass destruction. The Krythax had set their sights on Earth expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would reshape the galaxy's balance of power forever. Humanity had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. In a universe full of predators, the only way to ensure survival was to become the apex predator. The stars belonged to whoever was strong enough to claim them, and humanity had just announced their intention to claim them all. In the depths of space, alien civilizations updated their star charts with a new designation for the Sol system. Forbidden Zone, approach only with full diplomatic clearance. The species that had once searched hopefully for signs of alien life had become the galaxy's newest and most dangerous superpower, and they had accomplished it all without leaving their home system. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity had proven once again that the most dangerous predator is the one that appears harmless until the moment it strikes.